with an injury coming out of the AEW Revolution pay-per-view and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for March 7th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. With former AEW star Big Swole previously calling out the company for lacking in diversity, AEW President Tony Khan would respond, noting he let her go due to her not being a good enough wrestler, which led to fans and wrestlers getting upset. Now, during the post-show media scrum for Revolution, Khan said he believes AEW's latest signings prove he's prioritizing diversity. That was always my goal, and that was the point I've been eager to make. I always care about that representation. As you've seen in recent months, their contracts starting to expire and I can't renew everybody, and in the time that's passed since then, people have seen that I'm serious. I'm going to start signing more people. Keith Lee, AQA, Swerve Strickland, and many other debuts in that time that have been great. In addition to people coming in, there will be people coming out, and I try to do it based on merit. That was the point I was trying to make at the time. I'm going to evaluate people based on how good I think their wrestling is, in addition to a variety of other factors. I'm also prioritizing diversity, and we've made huge leaps since then. That was going into Jade's championship match and dominant run. She's a great wrestler, and she has worked with, speaking of representation, Sanjay Dutt, who has done a great job with her. Sanjay represents great representation. Growing up, there was nobody who looked like me that was on TV, that was pushed, and had any gimmick that wasn't offensive or who could really go. Sanjay Dutt, I didn't really look up to because we are the same age. And when I was in college, when I first found him, I was like, this is a guy who looks like me who can go. It's great having him here, and he's been great for Jade. He's a great person. Jade is already the Rookie of the Year and can take it to another level in year 2. I thought her match was excellent with Ty Conti, speaking of which, also great representation and had a tremendous match and has a lot to be proud of. Even though she hasn't won the title at the last 2 pay-per-views, she's been excellent and very typical of her. For his interview on After the Bell, Finn Balor mentioned the hardships that come from being a WWE superstar, as he said the money might not be worth some of the sacrifices. In life, anytime somebody doubts you, you want to prove them wrong, and you want to show them that they're wrong and I am right. I am this good, I am able to do that, and I can succeed. No matter how much success I've had, whether it's in the ring or outside of the ring, some people still doubt it, some still question it or don't fully buy into it. I haven't fully psychoanalyzed myself, but I'm sure that's part of the driving factor, that wanting to prove to people that I can do it. I think if you lose that feeling, why else would you be doing it? For money? I'll be honest, the money isn't that good for the amount of pain we go through and being away from my family for 20 years. I wrestle with myself the whole time as to like, hey, is this money worth being away from Ireland for 20 years? In 10 years time, when my family, people start to pass, my friends move on, is the money going to be worth the sacrifice that I've given up? Not the physical sacrifice, the sacrifice in being away from your loved ones for literally 20 years. Just having phone call relationships with people or text relationships with people that you grew up with or you love. I don't have any kids, but I've got 12 nieces and nephews, and I love them, but they know me as Finn Balor. They don't know me as Fergal, their uncle, the real person. They just know their uncle on TV. I wrestle with these things all the time. Is the money worth the sacrifice? Not the physical sacrifice, the living sacrifice. During the Face of the Revolution ladder match at last night's AEW pay-per-view, Ricky Starks would be powerbombed by Wardlow from the top of the ladder onto another, as Starks landed on his neck. With fans concerned over his health, Tony Khan gave an update on his condition during the post-show media scrum. Yes, he's okay. His neck's okay. It was a very scary moment in a big match, but he's gonna be okay. He's been awesome and tremendous for us, and everyone in the match did great, and I was really happy for the fact that he was okay. So thank you for bringing that up. It was not pleasant, and I wouldn't ask him to go out and wrestle 60 minutes or anything, but he's going to be okay. Also, at that media scrum, Tony Khan would talk about his decision to acquire Ring of Honor, taking a shot at WWE while promising to respect ROH. What NXT do you guys think is better, the original or 2.0? Which one do you think is more conducive to Vince McMahon's vision of pro wrestling? For better or for worse, if they're not going to change what they're doing on the main roster, wasn't it a more efficient process to overhaul NXT? That way, at least you're not calling up people you don't believe in. Does that make sense? ROH has an amazing history, and I do plan to respect it. I do want to keep it alive. That's one of the reasons Sinclair were excited to work with me. Joe Koff and others told me that respecting legacy was important to them, and that's why they were so happy to see it in this way. One thing I plan to do is bring a bunch of young wrestlers, and they already have a bunch of them. I think we're very successful here, and I plan to continue doing very well with it, bringing in wrestlers who can work in both ROH and AEW eventually. For continuity's sake, I don't want to change much about Ring of Honor. Other wrestling companies have had multiple promotions under one corporate structure or under one person. I don't think it's conducive to have people coming into an environment, say if somebody were to come here and I'm not behind their whole act, I want to change everything. That's not very conducive. With it previously reported that former UFC fighter Paige VanZant is signed with AEW, Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that a contract signing segment should be coming soon. Apparently, Paige is training to wrestle. Tony kind of talked about it. It was almost like an out, where he just goes, Dan Lambert said it, but I don't trust Dan Lambert. He's kind of a sleazy guy. I guess the idea is that Scorpio Sky was originally going to be put in that ladder match, although he never qualified, because I guess he's been undefeated for 360 whatever days. So he was pulled from it, and he got himself a title shot by Dan Lambert in exchange for Dan Lambert delivering Paige VanZant to Tony Khan. Paige is all over the show. They didn't do a signing. I think that they're going to do it coming up. I don't know. He talked about it like she's in, so she's going to do some stuff. With her, it's like you've got another person who's marketable, obviously, and famous to a degree. Probably more than any woman on the roster. Without a doubt, more than any of the women on the roster, but going to be very, very green. Kind of like Jade was a year ago. It's tough. It's one thing to make Sammy Guevara into a star when they're already a super worker, especially when the crowd is very work oriented, but it's a lot harder when you're dealing with the idea that, Jade Cargill can draw ratings in theory. Paige has at times been a very big ratings draw in UFC, but also that was years ago when that was UFC. If you bring in Paige VanZant, it's tough because you can't always beat her. While it was originally rumored that Vince McMahon would be returning to in-ring action to take on Pat McAfee at WrestleMania, McAfee's opponent is now going to be Austin Theory. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer noted that Vince McMahon is still set to be involved in the storyline. Vince McMahon is still in the angle. I don't know if it's going to be a handicap match. I don't know if it's going to be Vince McMahon in the corner of Theory, but getting heavily involved in the angle and everything like that. But right now, Vince McMahon is the key to that match. I mean, that's the drawing of that match, is Vince. So he will be introduced at some point, at least as things were last night. As things continue to change, but it was still talked about. Originally, it was going to be Vince and McAfee, but Austin Theory was going to be all over the match and basically taking all the bumps. So now it's more of, okay, this is what the real match is going to be, but Vince is somehow going to have his involvement in it. It's weird because I figured that Vince obviously went on that show, and they already teased it on Raw with the idea they were going to shoot an angle, and they didn't do an angle on it. And, they didn't even really do heat on it in the sense that Vince and McAfee didn't end up doing an angle. They just did a straight interview, basically. They didn't tease anything. So now they have to figure out after doing that what to pounce on to get to the story that they are going to want to tell. Speaking of Vince McMahon, CM Punk said during the post-show media scrum that he is thankful Tony Khan was the one to purchase Ring of Honor. It was pretty important. I loved ROH so much. I can't explain how happy I am that my footage is in good hands. It's good to know that it's in the hands of somebody that will treat it well. I literally feel that my baby is in somebody's hands that I know will raise the child the right way and do good things with it, and it won't get made into some tab on a shitty, confusing app that is hard to navigate and the boys don't get paid anything off it. It's very good. To pay homage to myself, I didn't get to do this for 7 years. This didn't exist for 7 years for me. Obviously, the truth is I love professional wrestling very much. To come back and to be able to, for 6 months, not just do whatever you want, it's doing whatever you want and being cocky enough to know that your way is not the right way. There is never one right way, but it's good. To have somebody that listens to you, to have somebody that can take an idea and make it even better, and to have an open dialogue, not just with Tony Khan, but with other people in the locker room. It's great that you don't have to beat your head against the wall and explain why your ideas are shitty and why? I don't care who you think you are. You don't know what you're doing. It's nice. Everything is just so great. Following his shocking release from WWE, Willian Regal is now a part of AEW, with him making his debut for the company at Revolution to get Moxley and Danielson to form a tag team. Talking about his addition to the company during the media scrum, Tony Khan noted that, "I have tons of respect for his mind, and I think he's going to be a very valuable person in AEW. Obviously, people who follow his career closely know that he has a very long established connection with Bryan Danielson and was instrumental in shaping the pro wrestler that Danielson has become, and he is one of the greatest pro wrestlers today and all time. Regal had a big contribution to that. When he was released, I was very surprised, but also eager to bring him here. I think he can contribute on screen in a major way to Danielson, and he has a history with Moxley. Some of the last matches we saw Regal wrestle were against Moxley, and they had a great rivalry. He's very familiar with both men, and they have a lot of respect for him. We say that after the violence and the way they bled together. They built a lot of mutual respect with each other, and that's very exciting. Also, behind the scenes, I think Regal can teach all of us a lot, and it's great to have him here on screen and off screen. They came together very recently, and he fits very well with what we're doing." Taking part in the Face of the Revolution ladder match at last night's pay-per-view, Orange Cassidy would take a huge bump, being tossed out of the ring by Keith Lee and thrown into a ladder by Powerhouse Hobbs. Brian Alvarez noted on Wrestling Observer Radio after the event that Orange Cassidy apparently injured his shoulder, which was the only serious injury I heard on the show. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.